So the purpose of this this session is to help you. We're going to start off with general exam questions for online and for written. If you've got any questions with that, if you can maybe type into the chat your questions, then I can follow it on the chat and answer it as it comes in. So let's start off with any general exam questions. If you don't want to type and you want to ask it, then you're welcome to do that. And I apologize beforehand if I pronounce your name wrong.
Everyone's so funny. Okay, let me get very quickly.
Somebody's mic is on. Can you please just switch it off? We hear children talking. Okay, from Alex, how do results work for the online exam? So the online exam, you get your results immediately after you have submitted your last question's answer. So you will immediately know if you've passed the exam or not. Gufawane. Sorry. How many questions are the online exam? Oh, that can vary because it's like a database of questions that are being mixed up and give you a paper. So that can vary, but it's usually relatively fair per module. That is the same amount of questions per module. Grant, can you go back to questions once you've moved on? I presume that is for the online exam. Guys, I'm just going to switch my video off quickly because I can see there's a delay when I'm talking. Here we go. Sorry, Alexa. That question have now disappeared. Looks like it. Oh no, there we go. Thank you, Grant. No, you cannot. As soon as you've submitted your answer, you move on to the next question. It's one question per screen, so you won't be able to move back to the previous question to change your answer. Isabella, yes, if you've made a mistake on the written exam, you're more than welcome to cross it out and correct it. Any other questions, guys? Exam related? Yes, the written exam is out of 150. The online exam, the one I wrote as a mock exam just to understand how the online exams worked was out of 200. Alex, what do I do if there's a technical issue during the online exam? There will be a person at the FGASA that you can contact. I do not know which person it would be. I presume it would be Yolanda. But if you have a technical issue, please just contact FGASA tomorrow and ask who you can contact. I don't know who's going to be on duty for that. And then they will advise you what to do. For the online exam, is there long answers or is everything multiple? The online exam is just multiple choice questions. That answers your question as well. Only multiple choice questions. With the online exam, to prevent people from cheating, the difference to the written exam is the online exam, all the modules are mixed up. So you can get a question on geology and the next question can be on historical human habitation. you can also get a geology plus ecology question together to make it difficult for people to sit with their manual and try and work out what the answers are. So it works out at approximately 30 seconds per question, but before you get a heart attack now, some of the questions is just true or false, or yes or no. And that takes you like 2 seconds to answer. So you've got 28 more seconds on the next question. So I didn't find that the question I would have run out of time. I really think that there's enough time to complete the online exam. But for the written exam, it's all per module. So you start off with ethical guiding. The next module is geology. So a tip there, when you see which module you're in geology. So the questions will be based about geology. For example, I know this is going to sound funny, but I think it brings the point. If you're in ecology and the question is define a consumer, or what is a consumer, the answer is somebody that buys and sells merchandise cannot be the answer, because it's ecology, it is not economics. So you can base all your answers on that specific module. So please make sure when you do that, because many times I'll get examples of mammals in the frog section or something like that, and then you just lose unnecessary marks. Isabella, during the written exam, should I try and make my answers as long as possible for more marks, or just make it as short and precise? Sure. I think if you make it longer, it's sort of because you're trying to explain yourself. If the answer is just plain the three functional parts of factors of an ecosystem, that's three limiting factors: production and energy flow, and cycling of nutrients. That's three very specific answers. But if you feel that you might be too vague on what you're saying, always try and maybe explain it through an example, because then the examiner can look at the example and go, okay, now I can see that you actually do have knowledge or understanding of this concept. Examples help a lot. But I would not, the trouble that you might run into, Isabella, is that you might run out of time. If you start off with very long explanations and then to the end, I can see it many times in papers, to the end I can see the person ran out of time because it becomes very short answers. Alex, are there any diagrams or images, or is it all text? I just want to check you are doing online. That was Grant. Are you talking about the online exam or the written exam, Alex? Online exam. Yes, there can be a picture, there can be a diagram for labeling, but remember it's multiple choice questions, so you're quite limited on what you can do. So on this label of a flower, is that the stamen or is it the pistil? You know, that type of things. You can get that, but not a lot. Is the exam out of 150? Yes, for the written exam, it's out of 150. How many rewrites do you get on online exam and written exam? You get 4 tries to pass the NQF2. So you can write 4 times. Any other questions, guys? Okay, we're going to move on. If you still have questions with regards to the exam, please feel free to put them down, and then I'm constantly looking at the chat to see if there's new questions coming through. Sorry, let me just see what this is. The marks in each section for the written exam is 10 marks per section, with the exception to taxonomy and fish, which is 5 marks, and that gives you 150. Okay, we're going to start with ethical guiding. Is there any specific questions that you guys have with regards to ethical guiding, module 1? Okay, so this section is mainly about the guiding environment itself, the industries that are involved in the guiding, in the safari or the tourism industry, like, for example, FGASA, NDT, and CASITA. It is important that you know the roles. Sorry, I keep on getting this coming through. And it's blocking my chat. Isabella and Gufawan, I'll answer that now. It's important that you know what these three role players, what their purpose is within the industry. For FGASA, setting the standards and the code of conduct for guiding in South Africa. NDT, who you register with to be a legal guide in South Africa, and CASITA, which issues the national qualification. Let me just see, for the online exam, are there going to be any scenarios? Yes, there can be scenarios. Isabella, how would I explain an itinerary for a week? The questions with regards to itineraries, Isabella, will be more with regards to, do you understand what the itinerary is, rather than to ask you to set up an itinerary, because that will be too many marks for one module. Remember, 10 marks for module 1 on NQF2 warrants usually around about 5, maybe 6 questions. So they won't spend the whole 10 marks on you designing an itinerary. More, do you know what an itinerary is? What do you do if there's something that happens and you have to change the itinerary? Those type of questions would be more relevant than you setting up an itinerary. Other things that are important. Sorry, let me just see if there's another question. If I'm not specifically answering your question, please just repeat it and give me a little bit more detail. Are you happy with that answer, Isabella? You can just give me a thumbs up, or I can't see everybody on my screen, so if we can just continue communicating over chat, then I can see your responses coming through. Back to module 1. It's a pleasure, Isabella. Think of guiding specifically, so questions that will be relevant to guiding, like if you vehicle-bound guiding, what things would be important? The vehicle would be important. Vehicle checks, which would be completely different to that of if you're going to go on a bushwalk. Also, what equipment do you need in your vehicle? What will you check on your vehicle before you go out? Those would be important things for vehicle bound. For walking, it would be more, what clothing are you wearing? Do you have sunscreen? Do you have a hat? Do you have closed shoes? Do you have maybe long pants or long sleeves to help you from sunburn? What equipment would you be taking with you? So those type of questions you can expect. And then also with regards to your guests. So what do you need to know about your guests? Why do you need to have a good relationship with your guests? How do you create a trust relationship with your guests? with your checks that you do before you go out on an activity. What type of things will you check? How will you prepare your guests? Your pre-brief, what would you share in your pre-brief? What would be important things to share in your pre-brief? Let me just check. I think there's questions coming in. No, not yet. So yeah, scenarios can also come in here to see if you understand what the ethical guide is, for example. So maybe a scenario where somebody is unethical, and then you can explain why that is unethical behavior. Then there is the three operators within. Operators probably not the best word, but sorry, I'm not really English. But the three types of people that you can get within the industry, and that would be a tour guide, a nature guide, and a game ranger. You should know what the roles of those people are. What else can I think of would be important? While you're driving, how will you park your vehicle? Why would you park it that way? What are environmental things that you would look at to make sure that that your guests have a good sighting? Those type of questions. So module 1 is really all about guiding the role players within the industry, and then specific things like your guest checks, your pre-brief, your vehicle checks, your equipment checks, those type of things. Okay, are you guys happy with module 1? Is there any questions you would like on what I've just shared with you guys? Okay, this is going to be a quick evening, guys. Then we can move on to, okay, sorry, Grant. Will be multiple choice, right? Or is there another type of question for the online exam? Apologies for this question now. No problem. You guys are welcome to jump back to sections. I don't mind. Grant, for the NQF 2 online exam, it is all multiple choice questions. There's no other questions in the exam. Pleasure, Luki. I hope I said that name right. Let's move on to geology. Yes, it's for NQF2. Grant, it's for NQF2. Oh, sorry, you're telling me it's for NQF2. Sorry. Let's move on to geology. Definitions for NQF2 papers are very important because that creates your foundation of understanding of the subject itself. So it's important that you know the definitions. So the definition of geology, it's important that you know what geology is all about. And then obviously where the whole thing starts is with rocks. So your formation of rocks, the three types of rocks and how they formed. And then remember that your igneous rock has two subcategories on where the cooling takes place, whether it's in the crust or on the surface of the earth. So that is important that you know how the rocks are formed. Then there's the case of fossil fuels, which is also another rock type that is formed from once living matter. So just look at that. And then there's another aspect, and that is native element, like for example where gold mining or silver mining or platinum mining will take place. So what is a fossil fuel? Oh, sorry, not a fossil fuel, a native element. So it's a layer within a sedimentary rock that consists of mainly one element, like for example gold. So those type of things. What is a mineral? What is a native element? What is a fossil fuel? Be able to name the rock types that we get worldwide and how they are formed. Just so that you all know that this is being recorded, so you are welcome to go and listen to it again if you maybe missed something. Then then you can go a little bit deeper and look at the composition of the earth, the different layers of the earth, the crust, the mantle, the inner and outer core, and then weathering and erosion. What is the difference between weathering and erosion? What is the significance from weathering and erosion? And then lastly, soils. Soils are important. This is where our plants grow, which links us to our animal life, or our animals that will be feeding, our herbivores that will be feeding on the plants. So that link is very important, that you understand that the rock gives you the soil gives you the place where the plants will grow, and the plants will then feed the animals. Okay. So in soils, go and look at what is the purpose of soil, or what is the importance of soil. I've now just explained to you about plants, but it's also something that stores nutrients and water. It's also something that keeps a constant temperature. So those type of things are important when it comes to geology. Let me just see. Questions have come in. Where can we go listen to it again? Asa, a link will be put on the social media tomorrow, and then that will link you, I think, to a YouTube channel where you can listen to it again. Let me just see, when will the recording be posted? Alex, very likely tomorrow. Zander, sorry, I'm writing it's different. The question that I was unsure of. It's about grasses, so whenever you get ready. Zander, you're welcome to ask the question now, but maybe it will make a little bit more sense when we get to the plant section. But I don't mind answering the question now. When will we write the online exam? I think the online exam is on Thursday. I haven't checked the calendar yet, but it's usually the Thursday, and then the Saturday is the written exam. Asa? Okay, so that gives you geology. Is there any specific geology questions that you guys have for me? Something that you don't understand that I can explain to you? Thank you, Marie. There you go, Asa. It's on Thursday. Okay, if there's no further questions with regards to geology, then you can move on to weather and climate, module 3. So again, weather and climate, you need to know what weather and climate is about. What is weather? What is climate? Weather is the day-to-day changes in factors like, for example, temperature, wind, cloud formation, precipitation, where your climate refers more to seasons. In the workbook, there are questions that need reference books. How do we buy them? Go for one. I'm not pretty sure what you refer to on that. There is recommended reading, but usually questions do not come from that. It comes directly from the manual, because not everybody has those books or have access to those books. So the questions will not come from additional or recommended reading books. That's just to help you get more insight. Okay, back to weather and climate. So yeah, difference between weather and climate, understand what the two topics are about. Then factors that will influence South African climate, world climate, that is important. Then there's like these one-pointers type of questions. There's many. I'll just give a few examples, like what is dew point? How does a cloud form? Sure, my brain is working a bit overtime now. What kind of weather can be expected from this cloud, or what weather can be expected from a high pressure system or a low pressure system? What is wind? All those type of questions are easy questions to ask in this section. Longer type of questions, like for example, explain what is a berg wind or anabatic or katabatic wind, and how will you know that it is that, so things that can help you as a guide to predict weather, and that may or may not have an influence on the experience of the guests or the activity that you're going to do, and how can you remedy that? What will you do if you know that there's going to be afternoon showers? You still need to go out on a game drive. How would you prepare your guests for that? So those type of questions are important. Your winds, all the winds that they mention in the manual are important, and also what is a wind? Okay, air that moves from a high pressure to a low pressure. Then the ocean currents on the eastern coastline and the western coastline, and the impact that has on our weather patterns. So, for example, on the eastern coastline, with the warm Agulhas current causing a low pressure system to come in, and then if a cold front moves in, you get lots of stormy weather, rain, thunder, lightning, and that will usually happen in summer when the Indian Ocean water is really, really warm. So those type of things, you need to have an understanding of that. There's other fronts as well, so your fronts that can also influence your weather pattern or your weather for the day. So you have your, can you just please switch your speaker off? I can't see you. Hello?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Hello?
Carol, can continue. We're listening.
Can you please switch your microphone off?
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I only see a S, so I'm not sure who I'm talking to. Where was I? Oh, the different fonts. So your cold front, your warm front, your tropical cyclone, and your coastal lows. You need to know what causes it, where you would find it, and what weather can be expected of it. Shelly Ann, let me just quickly read your question on page 24. In summary of South African climate, by latitude, it states that the southernmost point is Cape Agulhas, but the image on the page shows the point that's comment on possible typo. Yes, 35.4 is right. Thanks for pointing that out. Any manual usually have some mistakes. So thank you. That will be picked up by the recording by FGASA. Thank you very much, Shelly Ann. Okay. Any questions on weather and climate? Everybody good with weather and climate? Awesome. Astronomy. Sorry, we've got a question. What is your way to remember anabatic versus katabatic? I've got a very funny way of remembering it. So anabatic, Anna is the name of a human, a woman probably, and we are mainly awake during the day, active during the day, where katabatic, cat, which are cats, and they are more active at night. So that's just one of the ways that I teach my students how to remember it. I hope that helps for you. Okay, astronomy. It's a big pleasure. Astronomy, obviously know what astronomy is. Again, referring back to the definition, know what astronomy is. And then just certain little one pointers that you can look at. What is a star? What is a planet? Or what is the difference between a star and a planet? How will you see the difference between a star and a planet? Those type of things. Then other objects around within the universe, things like moons. What is a moon? What is a meteor? I don't think that the NQF2 curriculum goes further than meteor and meteorite and shooting star. You need to know what those are. Meteor is a rock in space that enters our atmosphere, and as it burns, that creates that shooting star effect. And if a piece of that meteor survives that passage through our atmosphere and it hits the ground, that is then referred to as a meteorite. Those type of things you need to know. Then a very important thing is the phases of the moon, because with the phases of the moon, there's a lot of questions that can be asked about the two different phases, the shapes of the moon, like your new moon, your crescent moon, your first quarter half moon. And so we go around with the 28-day circling or orbiting of the moon around the Earth. So you need to know that, but that in itself influences other things like our ocean tides. So when, for example, the sun and the moon and the Earth is in a straight line, this is when we get spring tides. And when the sun and the moon is at a 90-degree to the Earth, this is when you get neap tides. So the other thing that the phases of the moon also influence is lunar eclipses and solar eclipses. So the phases of the moon is quite important because it gives you all of that. You definitely need to know what is a new moon, what is a full moon, what is a crescent moon, what is a gibbous moon, the phases of it, the spring tide and the neap tide, and then your lunar and your solar eclipses. The next thing that is quite important for astronomy is your constellations. You only need to know 3 constellations, and that is the Southern Cross, the Scorpio, and Orion. And know the prominent stars in each of those. Like, for example, Scorpio, the stars in the head, and then Antares, which is the heart of Scorpio. Orion, practically all the stars, and then the Southern Cross as well, all the stars in the Southern Cross and the pointers. And talking about the Southern Cross, very important to know how to find south, because these are interactive things that you can do with your guest on a night drive. Okay, so that is important. Also for survival purposes, if you ever get lost, you can use that to find south. But also, Southern Cross is not the only constellation that you can find direction with. You can also do it with Orion. So please go read up on that. Sorry, I'm just taking a sip of water. Okay, what else? You guys can type questions if you want. I'm just sort of running in my mind over the manual to see if there's anything I've missed. I spoke earlier about meteorites. So the meteorite impact sites in South Africa would be important because they're not just geologically important, they're also ecologically important, and they're also for tourism and for research. So I would definitely go read up about Vredefort Dome or any other meteorite impact sites that is of importance in South Africa. I think that is about it. So with the constellations, what is important with the constellations is the prominent stars. When do you see Mr. S, your speaker is off again. On again. Can you please switch it off?
All right. Sorry, ma'am. I have a question.
Yes.
All right. Is the online exam the same as the written exam? Are they the question in terms of the setting?
No, it's completely different.
Oh, okay.
You can't. It's obviously about the same topics, but they can't ask the questions the same because it's the online exam is all multiple choice exam, multiple choice questions.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are you
Okay.
also going to give us a scope about the online exam, or it's only the written exam that you're dealing with?
Well, everything I talk about is relevant for both exams. It's just how they ask questions are different. With the written exam, you can explain yourself. With the online exam, you must choose the right answer to the question. So, but everything I'm sharing is relevant to both exams.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
It's a pleasure. So just back to constellations, when you see those constellations, the prominent stars in those constellations, and where can you see them? Can you see them in both the southern and northern hemisphere, or just the northern hemisphere, or just the southern hemisphere? Okay, is there anything else on astronomy? Any questions on astronomy?
Hello.
Hello? 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 You can talk?
Internet. Yes. So just ask about online exam.
Yes.
About settings of online exam is still the same as the writing one.
Are you asking me if the online exam is the same as a written exam?
Yes.
I've just answered the previous guy on that. Did you just come online or couldn't you hear?
I've got the problem of connection here, so I've joined now.
Okay, so the written exam and the online exam is completely different. The online exam is multiple choice questions, and the written exam, you write the answer. So the written exam, they can ask you to explain, they can ask you to give examples, they can ask you to define, they can give you a scenario and you must draw from the scenario an answer. Some of that you can also do on an online exam, but the online exam is strictly multiple choice questions only.
Okay, thank you, man.
It's a pleasure. Okay, then we're going to move on to ecology. Ecology has got quite a lot of definitions. You have definitions on what is an individual, what is a population, a community, an ecosystem, a biome, the biosphere. Then on the relationships, there's a lot of definitions and examples or scenarios that they can create for symbiotic relationships, which is mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. And then you have predation and you have competitions, your intra and interspecific competitions. So ecology has got a lot of definitions that they can draw exam questions from. So please make sure that you know what all these terms mean and be able to give examples for each of these terminologies. Okay. Then you can also get comparison questions like the difference between predation and parasitism, or a scenario where both of those will play a role. So the start of a scenario, let's say a spider wasp laying its egg in the spider while the spider is paralyzed, that would definitely be parasitism. But then when the larvae hatch and start feeding on the spider, that would be predation. Oh, not the spider, the spider, sorry. When the wasp larvae then feeds on the spider, that would then be predation. So that type of comparison, it can be within examples, it can be that you must give examples. It can be questions like define and give an example. So there's a lot of questions that can come from ecology. The terminologies are very important for you to know and give an example. Then there's the deeper questions within, let's say, an ecosystem. What is the physical aspects? What is the functional aspects of an ecosystem? And then even deeper into that, let's say nutrient cycling, you need to be able to draw or explain what a nutrient cycle is. You need to be able to label and explain what a trophic pyramid is with examples. So broadly with ecology, look at your definitions, all the different terminologies there with examples, and then move deeper into the relationships and the energy flow and the nutrient cycle and those type of things. Remember again, it is only 10 marks for the written exam per module, so they're not going to give you 20 definitions that you, or 20 terminologies that you need to define, because then they have to ask a half a mark per one. Okay, so yeah, ecology is definitely a lot of definitions and examples, because this brings everything together. Any questions on ecology? Okay, then we move on to biomes. Biomes, there's not much I can help you with biomes. This is a full-on theoretical module. Let me just see, Isabella, how can I remember the definitions? The best way for me to remember definitions is through real-life examples, like mutualism. The oxpecker that's on the buffalo, feeding on the ticks, which helps the buffalo and it gives food to the oxpecker. So real life examples helps me to remember definitions. So sometimes even if I can't remember the word, then I would explain it through example. I hope that helps, Isabella. Okay, when it comes to biomes, as I say, there is really not much that I can help you with the biomes, except that you need to go and make a summary of each biome, the important things that they put in there. Where do you find this biome? When does this biome get rainfall? Does it get high rainfall or low rainfall? What is the temperatures like? What is the underlying rock like? What abiotic factors plays a role, like fire? What biotic factors plays a role, like termites? What are the flagship species of that biome? This is a purely theoretical module that you definitely need to learn. There's not, I can explain to you what is a biome. I can explain to you what is an ecozone. I can explain to you what is a habitat. But that is about it. The rest is all facts that are in the manual. And I highly suggest that you summarize them all in the same way, then it's easier to remember. That is about how I can help you to pass again, only 10 marks on biomes. Tables are very popular in these type of modules, where you have column A to column B, give you, for example, the biomes, and they give facts or characteristics or something interesting about the biome on the next column, and you have to compare the two columns and say A goes to 9 or something like that. You just see I've got some questions here. Sorry to disturb. Do I really need to know the location of each biome? Yes, you do. That is for Shamandla. You have to know where you find, like for example, the desert biome. it's on the border between South Africa and Namibia. That tells me as an examiner, you know where the desert biome is. You don't have to go and name all the main cities around it or what it borders. Well, I just said the border between South Africa and Namibia, but you know what I mean. The Namakarua, for example, or the thicket. Okay. Alex, do we need to know all the flagship species and such? Unfortunately, my answer is going to have to be yes, Alex. They can use, for example, ask you a gaboon viper and a hawksback frog. Where will you find, which biome will you find that? So yeah, unfortunately, and the best way for you to remember this is to go. You all have Google because you're on the internet right now. Go Google images of these animals or plant species, and maybe print it out for you for yourself with the biome, so that you can make a link between these flagship species, and you know what these animals or plants look like. Then it makes it a bit easier to remember than to just have a bunch of words in front of you and trying to memorize that. Okay, so that is biomes. Any other questions? Sorry that I can't help you much more on biomes, but you need to go and learn that. Cool. Let's move on to taxonomy. So taxonomy, what is taxonomy? You must be able to define taxonomy. You must be able to say what is the purpose or what is the importance of taxonomy, to show you the biodiversity of life on Earth. Why do we classify organisms? What would be the reason for that? Which languages are being used in scientific names? Sorry, just hold on a second. Therese? Weet nie gaan van kyk nie, ek dink iets breek 'n boom. En dan net takke hoor kraak. Kan dalk verder in die bos in wees. Back to taxonomy, sorry guys.
Letitia?
Yes, yes.
Just with taxonomy, one of the things I also just remember and wanted to just clarification on. When I recall the online exam I wrote the previous time, I think they asked something like a civet. Obviously, civet is Viridie.
Yeah.
And then, but they won't do suborder. You'll always, if they like, obviously give you a multiple option for NQF2, you'll just need to know the main order, not the suborder.
Yeah, unless it's specifically mentioned within your manual, like for example, bats, they do ask suborders of bats, or they can ask suborders of bats. Your Macrochiroptera, your Megachiroptera and your Microchiroptera. And guys, if there is something like that, and it's a bit difficult for you to remember all these taxonomic words and stuff, the suborders of bats is insect bats and fruit-eating bats. So that is also accepted in NQF2. You don't have to write Megachiroptera and Microchiroptera. Or let's take, for example, spiders, which we have this two suborders of spiders, which is your Megalomorphs and your Araneomorphs. Even if you can just remember that they are web-living, that's your Araneomorphs, web-living spiders, so they survive within a web. And your Megalomorphs are free-running. They don't use a web to survive on. They run around on the ground. That is also acceptable. I don't know who I was just talking to, but I hope that helps.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Is that Zander? Because I just have an X on my screen.
Yes, thanks. Dankie.
Okay. Then also just know the main classes as well, like what can birds be classified, or what are birds being classified under the Avis, or your insects and relatives are arthropods. Then also for taxonomy, the hierarchical order from kingdom to species, please know that order. Certain hierarchical levels can be removed, like they can give you kingdom, phylum, and leave out class, and then give you order, family, and leave out genus. So you need to be able to fill it in. And those are also easy questions to have multiple choice with. Then if I'm you guys, I would take the big five and just go and look at under which family, genus, and species they fall, and be able to answer a question with regards to that. Okay. Any other questions with regards to taxonomy? Great. Then we'll move on to plants. And sorry, somebody asked me a question with regards to plants earlier. Grasses and the Zander, yes?
Yes, it was me. Sorry, I was just trying to make a note. I was just trying to find it quickly. Carry on. I will ask it when I have it.
Okay, no problem. Let me just see. I have a question. Will we be required to know Latin names? No, except for the last example that I gave you guys for the big five. Know which family, genus, and species they are from. And that would be regarded as Latin names. Okay, I think that's Alex. Okay, plants. Obviously, you need to know what a plant is. What constitutes a plant? The definition of a plant. Okay, so there are certain things that are important. If they're not there, it cannot be a plant. Like a cell wall made up of cellulose, that it has a that it has chlorophyll so that it can photosynthesize. Those are characteristics that needs to be in an organism, otherwise it cannot be a plant. So you must be able to define what a plant is. Okay, Nondomiso, can you please give me your understanding of increase and decrease grasses? Now that is something that a lot of people battle to understand. So I'm gonna explain it through an example, and that is if you have, for example, a road that has been disturbed, but before you put the road in there, there was beautiful red grass and signal grass and white buffalo grass growing there. I'm only going to talk about grasses now, but that won't be the only things that will grow there. But let's say you had this beautiful climax area with all these high grazing value grasses growing there, and now you make a road over it. So overgrazing, what is overgrazing now? It is your vehicle tires that are eating away on these plants. So they will start to decrease in their numbers. They're going to go away because of the impact, which is overgrazing. Let's take the vehicle out of the scenario and put a herd of cattle in there. And they really start to eat these climax grasses because they're high in nutrients, and they overgraze the area. It means that your highly palatable grasses will now decrease in numbers. And Mother Nature, to solve this problem, will now let other grasses come up in its place, and they will increase in numbers until the area is fixed, and then they will less and less of them will grow, and your decreases will now become in abundance again. But they get their names from what is the impact and how did they react to the impact. That is now the grasses. What is the impact on the grasses? Is it overgrazing? Is it drought? Is it too many fires? Is there not enough? Are there not enough bulk grazers? Are there too many selective grazers, like for example cattle? So you have grass. What is the impact on that grass and how do they respond to that impact? They can either respond to decrease in numbers or they can respond into increasing in numbers. Does that help you, Nomdumiso? Okay, awesome.
Letitia,
yes.
I found the note that I made.
Yes.
So it was with regards to the ecological status of grasses. Is it the reaction that the grass has to grazings, obviously with increasing and decreasing?
Yeah.
The reaction grass has to the soil type, or the reaction grass has to the amount of rainfall?
It's definitely with regards to, yeah, okay, that's a tricky one.
Like the rest of the exam, tricky.
Yeah, if we strictly go to the manual, then it would be, if we look at our increase of grasses, that will start to increase in numbers, it will be due to different levels of overgrazing. And then the others also have to do with herbivores. So your selective grazers, which would selectively go for your high grazing value grasses, which also means overgrazing, but only of selected grasses. Or you don't have enough bulk grazers, so there's not enough buffalo or elephant in the area to actually feed on these grasses. So now moribund forms and the grasses die off. But there is also a factor of fire that can come in. But if I just think of the manual, and I'm purely talking about the FGASA manual now, and not for anybody that have studied botany before, then I would say they refer mainly to herbivore impact. So I would say.
Sorry, I see. Yeah, the other note was the other option was actually the amount of animals within the area. So,
yeah.
would that then be more correct than the actual process and the reaction that the grass has to the soil and the rainfall?
Yeah, it's a difficult one for me to answer because I'm thinking broader than the FGASA manual, but you can only be tested on the FGASA manual. So can you give me option A again, or option one?
So it was, yeah, the one option, if I remember, was the amount of animals within the area.
Yeah.
Then the reaction grass has to grazing,
Yeah.
which is a result, obviously, of the animals. And then the reaction grass has to the soil type, or the reaction grass has to the amount of rainfall.
I would say the grazing one, if I'm thinking of the FGASA manual.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Guys, just hold on a second for me. Yes, okay. Sorry, guys, I'm just very thirsty. Shelly Ann, page 109. Sorry, I do not have a manual with me. Can all hear her just now, or is it just my connection? Sorry, I don't know who that is. Can everybody hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Hello? Okay, it looks like most people can hear me. Okay, so let's continue. So on plants, I started off by saying that what a plant is quite important. And then there's a lot of things that can come from plants. And there's also two sections on plants. So we have our tree section or shrub section, and then we have the grasses section. Sorry, I'm just reading the chats. And in both those two groups, there is quite a lot of questions that can be asked. I'm going to concentrate first on our tree section, so our dicotyledons, for those that know what I'm talking about. So let's look at those plants first. Things like the flower is important. What is the purpose? But nothing extremely intense, guys. But what is the purpose of a flower, for example? Then, oh yeah, something else that I usually forget to talk about on the plant section, and the reason why I forget to talk about it is because it shouldn't be in the plant section. It should be a section by itself, and that is fungi, because fungi do not have chlorophyll. Although it has a cell wall, the cell wall is made out of chitin, which is more related to animals like insects. Their exoskeletons are made out of chitin. But the questions are asked under the plant section. Okay, so let me first quickly cover fungus. So fungus is classified on how they obtain food. So it can either be from external digestion, like our decomposers, or it can be through a symbiotic relationship like lichen, where the green algae or the photosynthetic bacteria will actually give nutrients to the fungi, and then your parasitic fungi that will parasitize a host. So that is more or less what you should know about fungus in NQF2. Okay, what kingdom does it fall under? It's not under plants, it's under fungus. It's a kingdom by its own. And what are the three different types of fungus that you get? And examples of them. Okay, so then we can move on to our higher plants. And yeah, you can get a lot of questions. Like I've already said, what is the flower for? How will you identify a tree using leaves, or just generally, how will you identify a tree? The xylem and the phloem, the cambium transport layer. What is the function of the xylem? What is the function of phloem? And then from a guiding perspective, how can you use plants to enhance your guest experience? How will you introduce plants to your guests? I always highly recommend that you connect animals to it. Start talking about the elephant rubbing on the leadwood tree. This is more of a practical question now, but elephant rubbing mud on a leadwood tree, and you introduce the leadwood tree through the elephant, and then usually guests find it very interesting. Photosynthesis, very, very important for plants. You must be able to define photosynthesis. There can be questions, one-pointer questions, like, for example, how do plants produce oxygen? Through photosynthesis, because the byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen. Okay, so those type of things. What else can I say about plants? Annual and perennial plants, must be able to define that. Give an example of an annual plant and of a perennial plant. Sorry, I'm just running through everything in my mind to think. How do plants protect themselves? Tannins, hairy leaves, spines, thorns, latex, those type of things. Know what is the difference between a spine and a thorn. There can also be questions on photosynthetic bacteria, like your cyanobacteria. What is the importance of it? Well, they can photosynthesize, so they produces. Yeah. Yes, GF. Sorry, I don't know who that is.
Hi, Letitia.
Grant, yes.
It's Grant here.
Yes.
Maybe just an example from your side about medicinal use and traditional beliefs, how, I mean, it's a very small section of it, but I think it's quite an important section from a guiding perspective to kind of bring your guests into the experience of plants. And I'm quite passionate about plants. So just in your kind of, from your perspective, how could this be, I'm going to do the online exam, but even for the written exam, how, I mean, we're talking about 10 points for this whole section.
Yeah.
How to, I mean, obviously not to worry too much, but it would just be interesting to see how we could be asked around this question.
To be honest with you, Grant, I haven't seen many questions with regards to give a medicinal use of the. There has been in the past, but it will usually be something like, and that's what will make it difficult for the online exam. For the written exam, that would be an easy question. Choose any tree of your choice and give one medicinal use or traditional belief about that tree. But that would be quite difficult in a online, because you can't choose in a online. I've only written one online exam as a mock exam so that I can understand how it works, and there was no such questions there with regards to. But I don't know. I've written one. I don't know how many online exams there are, and there might be. But I think that would be then they give you a very common tree, like for example a marula or a magic worry or a leadwood. Sorry for the other regions. I don't really know the other regions' trees that well, but it will then be a very common tree, and then they're going to give you obviously options on medicinal uses, and you must choose the right one. But I didn't experience that in the mock exam that I wrote.
Okay, yeah, I'm down in the Cape as famous as it can get. So,
Okay.
but thank you so much. That does help. Thank you very much.
Okay. You see that it makes it very difficult if they then if they give you a plant, because as we've just seen, you're in the fynbos, not a lot of trees there. So I can't really see to have a fair question to give the whole country one tree to give a medicinal use, unless it is really something that if you're in South Africa, you must know it. That type of scenario. But examiners usually do not do that, because you're going to have a group of people that don't know that tree. Zander, also look at things like spermatophytes. Under spermatophytes, your gymnosperms and your angiosperms, you need to know what those two are and give examples of them. You're right on that, Zander, or if it was a question, then yes, that is quite important. Not so much the spermatophyte itself, but the two groups under spermatophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, then we can move on to grasses. Under grasses, there is a lot of questions that can be asked, because you have the three main topics that I discuss in NQF2, and that is grazing value, the ecological status of grasses, and the succession, the secondary succession. So know what it means to have a high grazing value, or know what grazing value is. You must be able to define it. The ability of a grass plant to produce palatable tuft food, grasses for the animals to eat, and that you get different classifications under that, your low, medium, and high grazing value. Then, as we've already discussed, your ecological status, what is ecological status of grasses? And then the two categories that falls under it, your decreaser and your increases. And then your secondary succession, what is succession? And what is a climax grass? What is a subclimax grass? What is a climax grass? They don't usually ask for examples. I can't remember when last that was done, but you must definitely know the purpose of these grasses and why they are growing there and where are they growing. Like your pioneers are going to grow on disturbed soil. So that is quite important. Terms, for example, facilitation. Must be able to know what facilitation is and give an example of facilitation, or you get an example and they ask you what it is. Like zebras eating the tall grass and your blue wildebeest coming after them and eating the shorter grass as an example, then you would say it's facilitation. What else? What else can they ask on the grasses? Oh yeah, your sweet veld and your sour veld. Please know those. Shamandla, I will be with you now. So your sweet veld and your sour veld, where do they grow? And things like impacts, like overgrazing or too many veld fires, what impact will it have on the two different veld types that we get? Is it possible to have questions like label the anatomy of a grass plant? Yeah, there has been on the written exam. Again, on the online exam, I only wrote one, or only partook in one. Didn't see it there. On the written exam, I have seen that before, but not recently. But yeah, just the major sections of the grass plant, the anatomy of a grass plant. So you've got your top part, which is your reproductive, your inflorescent, and then you got your vegetative part from the inflorescent down, your columns, your tufts, your root system, your adventitious roots, or modified stems like your rhizomes and your stolons. But I very much doubt that they will go into a spiglet and ask you to, or a grass flower or a grass seed, to ask you to label that. I hope that helps. I'm just going to say mandla. Sorry guys, I really battle with the names. Where was I? I've covered cyanobacteria. Oh, I think that is about plants. If there's any questions still, you guys can just type it in. Let's move on to arthropods. Arthropods, what is an arthropod? Remember that is a phylum, and under the phylum. Yes?
Yes. Do we need to know the function, maybe like function of the bark, leaves, and roots?
Yeah, but not for long questions. Probably one point questions.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, they're not going to ask you name five purposes for the roots of a plant, because there's only 10 marks in this section for the written exam anyway.
All right, thank you so much.
A pleasure. Okay, so back to arthropods. So remember, arthropods is a phylum, and under the phylum Arthropoda, we get different classes. So we get the class insects, we get the class arachnids, which is our spiders, scorpions, ticks, and mites. Then we get our millipedes and centipedes, and then you also get your crustaceans. There's usually, I actually have not seen any questions on crustaceans. Millipedes and centipedes, there's an amazing table in your manuals. that summarizes the differences between millipedes and centipedes. Please go and see if you can memorize that one, or at least understand it, make things real. Arthropods or insects and their relatives are real organisms that we see every day. So put real life examples in for yourself if you learn. That helps you to remember it. Then under, so we had millipedes and centipedes. Then under insects, one of the main things that makes them so successful is the fact that they have life cycles. So the life cycles of insects are important. Your three life cycles: ametabolic, hemimetabolic, and holometabolic. Important, and with examples. And they can sometimes even ask you to give 2 examples of describe the life cycle of a hemimetabolic insect, and give 2 examples of insects with that life cycle. Remember that your hemimetabolic is everything bug. And then obviously many other, your termites, your dragonflies, your cicada bugs, all of those things. But as I just said, cicada bug, anything that ends with a bug, those are hemimetabolic. And then your holometabolic is your beetles again, and your ants, and your bees, your wasps, butterflies, everything that goes through a life cycle of egg, larvae, pupa, adult. Okay, so life cycle is important. There can be questions on specialized mouth parts. But then very important with this section is, what is the ecological importance of insects? What makes insects so successful? Those type of questions are quite important, because those are the type of questions that you will deal with your guests to make them appreciate insects. Okay, if we then move on to our arachnids, there can be questions on spiders, on scorpions, and on ticks. Mites, I've never seen questions on mites, and I don't even think they cover it in your books, except saying that it is an arachnid. Under your spiders, there's the 2 groups of spiders that are important, your different venoms of your spiders, and what symptoms you can get from that. Ticks, what is the importance of ticks? Why is there ticks? What is the importance ecologically for ticks? What else can they ask? Life cycle is very important for your insects. Yeah, I think that is about it on arthropods. So you have your 4, well, let me rather say groups than just plainly classes. But your insects, your spiders, scorpions, ticks and mites, your arachnids, your millipedes and centipedes, and then your crustaceans. But as I say, I don't think they even cover crustaceans in your manual. So very unlikely that you will get questions from that. Hello? Yes.
Yes. Maybe, you need to expect questions like different.
I cannot hear you. Shamandla, I cannot hear you. You broke up.
Yes.
I don't know what your question is.
I said that. Do we need to expect questions like differentiate between Scorpionidae and Butidae?
Yes. How would how would you know that it is a highly venomous scorpion? by looking at the pinches and the tails. And yeah, Euthidae and Scorpionidae, yes. You should know
Yeah, so
that.
do we need to know maybe the function, like the function of the pelvic pipe or function of the sting, something like that?
I have not seen questions with regards to that, no. But for me to say no, you shouldn't know it. You should know it as a guide. So,
Yes.
but I have not seen questions in the exam about it. Specifically
thank you.
on pedipalps. No, I haven't. Okay, but that doesn't mean it won't come up in this exam. I have not seen the exam. The first time I see the exam is on Saturday when I open it up for the people to write the exam.
Thank you.
Shelly Ann, yes, I think that is what we've just spoken about. So those that are writing online exam, there is a tip for you guys on thick-tail and thin-tail scorpions. Yeah, so yeah, I think that is arthropods. Know where tick bite fever comes from and what it is? Venom types in spiders, venom types in scorpions. Remember, all scorpions worldwide are neurotoxic. Okay, thank you, Shelly Ann. For those that are doing online exams, she's giving you nice tips there. I'm not allowed to, but yeah, Shelly Ann can. Okay, let's move on to fish. As I said, in the written exam, fish is a very, it's okay, Shelly. Don't worry about it. Fish is only 5 marks on the written exam. On the online exam, as I say, it's random questions all over the place, so there can possibly be more marks on fish on the online exam. But again, for NQF2, very important, what is a fish? Must be able to say what a fish is, the different regions on a fish, the different groups of fish that we get, your jawless, your cartilaginous, and your bony fish. Then the senses of fish, the eyesight, what makes their eyes special, what's the purpose of the rounded lens of the eye of a fish. Can a fish, does a fish have a good sense of smell, for example? So on the senses, the lateral line is important. What function does the lateral line play? The swim bladder, what is the function of the swim bladder? You don't have to go into things like how the gases are made that actually expands the swim bladder. That's more NQF4 work. Okay, so just what is a swim bladder? What else? I spoke about the lateral line, the senses, then the food that fish will eat. Different food will determine what teeth they have. So know about that. What predatory fish will have sharp, long teeth, and fish that feed on algae won't have teeth because they just suck the algae off the rocks and things like that. So that is quite important. Then the colorations, the different camouflages that fish can have. For example, counter shading, the importance of counter shading and how does it help to camouflage the fish. And then also understand how a fish fits into an aquatic ecosystem, a water-based ecosystem.
Leticia,
Yes.
yes, there's a question like, what are the 3 main parts of fish body consist of? Some question like that. So some other people just simply say there's a head, a body, and tail. So
Yeah, it's a head, trunk, and tail.
yes.
Okay? A fish doesn't have a body. That's a trunk. Okay. Yeah, I think that covers about fish. If there's any questions on fish, you can just pop it down in the chat. Okay, let's move on to amphibians. Again, what is an amphibian? What makes them unique? What type of life cycle do amphibians have? What is the unique characteristics of amphibians? And then going a little step deeper into amphibians, Anora, which is the order of frogs and toads in Southern Africa. So know the order for frogs and toads. Also the additional characteristics of the order Anora, like for example, order Anora means no tail in adult stage, so that would be a main characteristic of the order Anora. So hold on a second for me. Mock your chocolates. Mock your chocolates. Okay, back to amphibians. The different types of camouflage or anti-predatory behavior on frogs and toads, like flash coloration, cryptic coloration, then mating in amphibians, know what amplexus is, know the different types of amplexus, axillary, clasp, inguinal, and adhesion, and have examples for that. And then frog calls, very important, and the two behaviors of frogs during the mating season, your satellite behavior and your timeshare behavior, what it is, how it works. Feeding in frogs, how do frogs feed? Differences between frogs and toads, important. Chameleons, which are not, oh no, sorry, we have amphibians, not that reptiles. Yeah, I think that covers frogs. Yeah. Okay, any questions you can just write down. Reptiles. What makes a reptile unique? Why is a reptile a reptile? Then your different orders of reptiles, your Solonian, your Squamata, and your Crocodilia. Now, what makes it a Solonian? It's shelled reptiles. What are Squamatas? Snakes, very, very, very important, because that is something that all your guides will encounter at some stage. So your different fang types, from solid teeth to back fangs, what type of predatory adaptation do they have to have nearer, or where would the fangs be, and how does that relate to the venom, like your front fixed fangs of your mambas and your cobras are neurotoxic. Also, if there's any combination toxins like your neurocytotoxic of your Mozambican spitting cobra, that is important. Characteristics of the class Reptilia, so things like are they ectothermic or endothermic, those type of things. Are they internal or external fertilization? Are they egg laying, or do they give birth to live young? Those type of things. Your monitors that are referred to as in Afrikaans likkewaan, in English legewaan, I think. What are they? Your Solonians, your shelled reptiles, your tortoise, terrapin, and turtle. What do they feed on? What is their natural habitat? On your tortoises, the function of the bursa sac. How can you see the difference between a male and female tortoise? Then on your crocodiles, how long can a crocodile stay underwater? How many sets of teeth do a crocodile have? How is a crocodile adapted for the aquatic environment? The jaw of a crocodile.
Sorry, Letitia. So I just want to ask about, do we need to know the difference between terrapins, tortoise, or turtles?
Yes, you must know the difference in what they feed on and their habitats. Like tortoises live on land, terrapins live in fresh water, and turtles live in salt water or oceans. Definitely you need to know.
All right, thank you.
Okay, symptoms of venom. So your neurotoxic venom, what would be the symptoms that will tell you that you or your guest have been bitten by a neurotoxic snake? How does the use of the Jacobson's organ differ between the reptiles and, for example, mammals? I think I've covered everything. Alex, I have seen questions previously with regards to it, not lately. For a long time now, I haven't seen any questions on the locomotion, the movement of snakes. But again, as a guide, you should know that. Okay, then we can move on to birds. What makes a bird? What makes them unique as a class? Under chordates, your vertebrates. What are the characteristics of a bird? Yeah, a lot of practical type questions can start to come in. Like, for example, giving you a couple of birds and ask you, what do these birds feed on? Or your food structures, your passerine, non-passerine, and near-passerine. You must be able to identify it and give an example of a bird that is a near-passerine, for example. Nesting is important. What type of nests does the following birds make if they do make a nest? And I can give random birds there, but it will usually be birds that everybody is or should be familiar with. There can be questions with regards to owls, what makes them very specialized and different to other birds. Like, for example, that they don't tear meat, although they do sometimes, especially if they have chicks. But usually they catch prey that fits down their throat into their stomach. Your different types of feather care or bathing, your water bathing, sunbathing, dust bathing. If they're not specifically asking about bathing methods, it will be just anti-predatory, feather care, not anti-predatory, feather care. That will then also include anting. what characteristics do birds and reptiles share? Like, for example, the egg tooth and the cloaca. Yeah, there's a lot of one-pointer questions that can come out of the bird section. Okay. If there's any questions, you can just put it there. Mammals. What is unique about a mammal? What makes a mammal in that class? Two characteristics, for example, that will make you know that it is a mammal. Then your foot structures, very important. Your plantigrade, digitigrade, and ungulates or unguligrades, and examples of it. The diet of your mammals, your herbivores, your carnivores, your omnivores, your selective grazers and bulk grazers. What is the difference between a grazer and a browser? What is the difference between a selective grazer and a bulk grazer? You can also expect, but again, it will be the most common animals, usually the big five, where they can ask you many different questions there. Things like conditional shears. What is an animal that's nocturnal? What is an animal that's diurnal? What is an animal that's crepuscular? Sorry, there's just a question here. Bashir, I actually know you, I think. For the online exam, it's not so much about how many questions. It is about the mark allocation. So for the written exam, it is per module 10 marks, except for your taxonomy and your fish, which is 5 marks each. For the online exam, I don't know how many questions or how many marks per module they're going to ask, because they jump around a lot so that people can't cheat. So it can be more. I don't think it will be less on mammals than 10 marks. Terminologies like geophagy, coprophagy, osteophagy, yes? Hello?
Yes, here, this my learning manual says mammals are those, this term mammal came from the
Yes, you're breaking up so much. I can't hear what you're asking. Can't you type it for me?
All right.
Thank you. Then there are, I spoke about the different diets. Your different digestive systems. So your ruminants and your hindgut fermenters, you must be able to give examples. You must be able to explain what it is. And then, as I said earlier, you can get this random question of the 2 suborders of bats. What are they divided into? One-pointer questions like, which is the largest rodent in South Africa? What's the gestation period of a white rhino? Echolocation in bats, especially your insect bats. Why do they use echolocation? What is echolocation? Yeah, I think I've covered everything on mammals. Do all the antelopes are ungulates? Bashir, yes. They are all hoofed animals. Okay, animal behavior. Animal behavior, lots of practical questions that can come out of animal behavior. Like you can break it into 4 categories. You can look at grouping behavior, you can look at communication behavior, protective behavior, and reproductive behavior. So that whole section is actually divided into these 4 headings. So go and have a look under the grouping behaviors. So your caste, your oligarchy, your matriarchy, know what it is and be able to give examples of it. What else? What else? As I said earlier, with the reptiles, the Jacobson's organ, there it's used to pick up chemical compounds to find food, where with our mammals, it is all about mating. Talking of the subject of mating is, what is the difference between a territory and a home range? And then for the guiding environment itself, which the theory is preparing you for. There you can get a couple of questions. Why is animal behavior important to a nature guide? For 3 marks, for example. So in that case, it will be 3 reasons why animal behavior is important to nature guides. Then you need to know things like, what are pheromones, what is scent marking, what's the difference between scent marking and territorial marking. Terminologies like thanatosis and autotomy, what is the meaning of it? Give an example of that. Follow me signs. Then allo grooming, allo preening, allo suckling. Know what those things mean? Preening, obviously, with birds. Know what is mobbing behavior. What other behaviors are there? Communication behavior. How will animals communicate verbally or non-verbally? We just see what Manda says about mammals. My learner manual says mammals come from the word mammary gland, which is responsible for secretion of milk. So my question is, mammals, is it the only animal that secrete milk? Yes. Yes, Manda, it is only mammals. Know things like mobbing behavior. The different glands that you get, your metatarsal gland for your elephants, impalas, your temporal glands for elephants, your preorbital glands, for example, the blue wildebeest. What is its purpose? Animals can't talk like us and make sentences and lie about stuff, and they're very honest animals or organisms, true to them, their nature. So know things around that as well. Okay, conservation management. Conservation management can have a lot of questions. There's a big variety of questions there. So you can actually go and look at, in your manual, you have habitat management and all the different role players in habitat management, like waterhole rotation, like fire as a management tool, anti-erosion work, removement of alien plants, those type of things. You need to know what is all involved in in conservation management. And then also for you as a guide, what role does conservation management play out in the field? Why should you know about conservation management? Why do you need to rotate your waterholes, for example? Bolsters, mitre drains on road maintenance important. What is bush encroachment? What is alien vegetation? Your different water requirements with examples of animals, your independent and your two dependent water mammals or animals. And then the three groups that that animals can be divided into. Oh, sorry, I'm at the wrong spot now. I've mentioned fire, yes. Different types of fire, and when will you burn and when will you not burn? How would you fight erosion? What types of erosion do you get, and how would you combat erosion? Okay, historical human habitation. There's not a lot of questions on historical human habitation. So make yourself a small summary of the different ages. So your early Stone Age, your middle Stone Age, and your Iron Age, later Stone Age and Iron Age. And what type of tools that they use, and definitely examples. Please, guys, examples of the different ages. So your early, your middle, and your later, and then your Iron Age. Which archaeological findings have been made, and where do you get, where was these findings made? Then you get your transfrontier parks and your biosphere reserves. You must be able to define what is a transfrontier park, what is a biosphere reserve, and give examples of it. Thank you, Zander. Good luck with you too. You guys must let me know how it went. It will be awesome. So examples of transfrontier parks, examples of biosphere reserves. Choose ones that you can remember. And then there's some South African questions as well, as like how many official languages do we have? What are the different groups of languages that we speak in South Africa? Yeah, that's about it. Just think. Yeah, I think that is it. Awesome, guys. Is there any modules that you still have problems with? Very cool. I hope it really helps. I hope you guys all pass. And remember, I did put my number in on the chat. I will put it now again. Typing. There's my number. You are welcome to contact me if you have any problems. Remember to contact the FGASA office for the online people to know if you have technical problems, who you can contact and how they can remedy it. Otherwise, guys, it was awesome sort of chatting to you guys. It was mainly me talking, but I know that you guys are out there listening. Good luck with your exams. Let me know if I can help with anything. If you're in Hoedspruit, you will encounter me at the exams on Saturday. I will be invigilating on the South African side, the Hoedspruit side.
Sorry,
Yes,
how are you?
I'm very good. And you? Who am I speaking to?
Speaking to Olebogeng.
Yes, Olebogeng. How can I help you?
I wanted to understand that one about the stars and direction. Will we in the exam,
Yeah.
should we let me say illustrate and
Yeah.
draw every single thing, even the stars and all, or will they be there? The stars will be there and then we just need to draw the lines.
Usually they give you the stars and they say label the stars and how will you find true south, for example, with Southern Cross.
Okay. So in astrology, you must actually focus more on the stars. Is it like
No, I've covered everything that is important in astrology. Your phases of the moon are very important. Cloud formation. What type of cloud is it? What weather can you expect from
about
that
that?
cloud?
I noticed
How
very
will you
late that I was.
your guests? Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Yes, you were saying.
Yeah, I've finished saying.
Oh yeah. Okay. All
Okay.
right. No, thank you so much.
Okay, guys. Good luck. I hope you all pass. And remember, if you have any problems, please contact me and I'll see how I can help. Have a nice evening, guys.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
It's a
Bye.
big pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Letitia. Thanks.